Takisha 69 and her mother, Althea, never imagined that a quiet night at their mansion would turn into a nightmare of terror as masked intruders stormed the house in a shocking home invasion, leaving chaos, secrets, and fear in their wake. The trouble began on a night that appeared completely ordinary, the kind of night when no one expects anything unusual to happen. Takisha 69's mansion sat quietly at the edge of a private neighborhood, its tall windows glowing softly against the dark sky. The home had always been a symbol of luxury and safety, a place her mother, Althea, often visited whenever her daughter traveled. That evening, she arrived with a small bag of groceries and the intention to water the plants, check the mail, and ensure everything was running smoothly while Takisha performed in another state. The gates opened automatically as her car approached, giving no warning of the danger waiting inside. From the moment she stepped through the front door, a strange chill settled over her. The house normally greeted her with soft music and the faint scent of candles, but instead, she was met with heavy silence and a faint draft moving through the hall. Althea noticed immediately that something wasn't right. A decorative vase near the entrance was knocked onto its side, and several picture frames were no longer aligned the way she remembered. She took a few uncertain steps forward, scanning the shadows, convinced the odd disturbances could be explained by the cleaning crew or a pet slipping through a window. But as she moved deeper into the home, the feeling of unease only intensified. The living room looked as though someone had searched through drawers and cabinets in a hurry, leaving objects scattered across the floor. Althea reached for her phone, instinctively wanting to call Takisha, but before she could unlock the screen, a heavy force pushed her forward. It happened so fast she barely processed the movement before losing her grip on the phone. It slid across the polished floor and disappeared under the couch. Two masked figures loomed behind her, silent and efficient in their movements. They didn't speak or hesitate. One restrained her wrists while the other forced her onto the living room carpet. The intruder's calmness frightened her more than any threat could have. They moved like people who had prepared for this moment, who knew exactly where to stand and how to avoid the cameras placed around the house. Althea's heart pounded as she tried to make sense of what was happening. She searched for any sign of mercy or hesitation in their body language, but found none. Within moments, she was bound and unable to move, left watching as the masked figures walked deeper into the mansion with a clear, chilling purpose. The home that once represented comfort and success had transformed into a prison, and Althea realized she had unknowingly stepped into a carefully planned trap. The intruders moved through the mansion with a level of confidence that suggested they knew the layout better than most visitors. Every step they took seemed intentional, as if they had memorized where each room was located and how long it would take to search it. Althea lay helpless on the living room floor, her wrists bound tightly. She listened to the sound of drawers opening and closing in quick succession, cabinets being emptied, and furniture being shifted. The intruders communicated only through gestures and brief, sharp movements of their hands. Their complete silence made the situation more unsettling, leaving Althea to imagine the worst possibilities about their identity and motive. The hours dragged on painfully slow. At one point, Althea tried twisting her wrists, hoping the restraints might loosen, but they were fastened too securely. The carpet beneath her cheek felt rough and cold, and the weight of fear pressed heavily on her chest. Every noise from upstairs sent a new wave of dread through her. She had no idea what they were searching for, but their determination made it clear that they wouldn't leave until they found it. Meanwhile, the mansion's advanced security system, which had always given the family a sense of protection, was strangely quiet. It seemed the intruders had not only studied the home but had disabled key systems before entering. Just when Althea thought the situation couldn't grow worse, the lights flickered, then dimmed briefly. The sudden change startled the intruders, causing them to freeze mid-action. The flickering wasn't caused by a power outage. She recognized it as the response of the backup generator taking control. It was an automatic failsafe designed to activate whenever the main system detected major tampering. This small disruption seemed to shake the intruders' confidence. They looked around the room with sharper urgency, realizing they might not have as much time as they thought. The faint hum of the generator echoed through the mansion, a subtle reminder that the security system had likely sent silent alerts to the off-site monitoring team. Althea's heart raced with cautious hope, though she didn't know how long it would take for help to arrive. The intruders, sensing that their window of safety was closing, moved faster. They overturned entire shelves and emptied closets at a frantic pace. Yet in their rushed movements, they began making mistakes, knocking over items they didn't intend to, leaving small traces behind and stepping in places they had previously avoided. The shift from calm precision to hurried desperation marked the first sign that the situation might not be entirely under their control anymore. The mansion, once filled with controlled silence, had transformed into a chaotic maze of overturned furniture and scattered belongings. The intruders' shift from calm efficiency to restless urgency was obvious in every sound they made. Althea could no longer see them from where she lay, but she could hear the thuds of drawers being pulled too hard and the sharp clatter of objects falling to the floor. Every noise revealed more about their growing frustration. A sudden crash from the hallway made her flinch, followed by a heavy pause, as though the intruders had stumbled upon something unexpected. Moments later, footsteps rushed toward one of the guest rooms, and the muffled scrape of furniture informed her that they were moving something large. Hidden behind a decorative panel in the wall of that guest room was a safe that only Takisha and one trusted technician knew about. It was cleverly blended into the architecture and protected by layers of security meant to hide sensitive documents, items that had nothing to do with money or jewelry. The intruders must have discovered the faint outline of the panel while examining the wall. Althea heard the steady tapping of tools striking metal, each strike becoming more forceful as the intruders pried open the safe. When the heavy door finally gave way with a dull metallic snap, the tone of their movements changed again. Instead of rummaging randomly, they sifted through the contents with intense focus. Inside were envelopes sealed years ago, folders filled with contracts, signed statements, and old industry agreements from Takisha's earliest days in music. These documents held information she kept hidden not for personal gain, but to protect herself from people she once trusted. The intruders seemed to know exactly what they were looking for, flipping quickly through the materials until one of them paused for longer than usual. Pages rustled rapidly as if they had identified something of value. Their discovery, however, cost them precious time. The silent alarm triggered by the generator's activation had already sent alerts to the private security team stationed across town. As the intruders continued searching, the low rumble of an approaching vehicle rolled up the distant driveway. The sound was faint but unmistakable. Althea recognized the pattern of the engine. It belonged to the patrol unit that occasionally circled Takisha's property. Fear and hope collided in her chest. If the security team reached the house in time, she might be saved. But she also knew the intruders, now anxious and unpredictable, could react dangerously. The intruders seemed to sense the shift too. Their steps became heavier, their breathing louder, and their movements more reckless. Papers were dropped, shelves bumped in two, and doors left wide open. The once calculated plan was unraveling quickly. As they snatched the documents they deemed important, they left a trail behind them: fingerprints, footprints, and most revealing of all, several pages they had torn loose but accidentally abandoned on the floor. The house was no longer under their complete control, and their mistakes were beginning to form a path investigators would later follow, piece by piece. The sound of approaching security changed everything inside the mansion. The intruders, who had moved through the house with precision for hours, suddenly became erratic. Their calm confidence was replaced with sharp movements and hurried gestures, as if they had only just realized the gravity of the situation. They began tossing aside documents and small valuables in a frantic attempt to find what truly mattered to them. Every overturned drawer, every broken ornament, and every scattered paper spoke of their desperation. Althea, still restrained on the living room carpet, tried to steady her breathing and remain as quiet as possible, knowing that even the smallest noise could provoke a violent reaction. The intruders' attempts to cover their tracks were both hasty and clumsy. They smashed cabinets, tore down decorative panels, and pushed furniture against walls in a feeble effort to make the house appear ransacked rather than a targeted search. In the chaos, they left behind tools and personal items that would later become key pieces of evidence. One small backpack, forgotten in the scramble, contained instruments clearly intended for breaking and entering, as well as a metal tag with a partially scratched serial number. In their panic, they failed to notice the significance of the item, yet it would eventually become a critical clue for investigators. Outside, security teams moved with stealth and caution, taking advantage of the mansion's sprawling grounds and the cover of darkness. They knew from the alerts that the intruders had not yet fled and hoped to catch them inside, but the house itself made the operation difficult. Every corner held shadows, every hallway presented a risk. Inside, the intruders could feel the tension shift. The sound of distant vehicle engines and soft flashes of flashlight beams filtering through windows made them realize they were being hunted. Their methodical plan had collapsed, leaving only desperation and fear to guide their next moves. In a final attempt to escape, the intruders made for the back exit, dragging with them the documents they believed were essential. As they fled into the wooded area behind the property, they left more evidence than they realized. The scattered papers, damaged walls, and broken locks bore witness to their intrusion, forming a trail that would later allow investigators to reconstruct the events with startling accuracy. Althea, though shaken, remained unharmed. The sheer terror of the night had left her exhausted, but the knowledge that help was so close gave her a fragile sense of relief. She watched as the intruders vanished into the darkness, leaving behind the wreckage of what had once been a secure and peaceful home. The house, scarred and violated, now held a story that extended far beyond stolen items. It carried proof of a calculated scheme, desperation, and the first clues that would eventually unravel the mystery behind the audacious home invasion. In the aftermath of the invasion, investigators arrived to a scene that looked chaotic at first glance, but quickly revealed a deeper story. Every overturned piece of furniture, every scattered paper, and every damaged cabinet was meticulously documented. Forensic teams worked methodically, taking photographs and collecting fingerprints, footprints, and even the tiny metal tag left behind by one of the intruders. Though it seemed insignificant at first, the tag carried a serial number that would later unlock the key to the entire operation. Tracing it led investigators to a shipment of surveillance and security devices purchased months earlier. The buyer had used a fake identity, but surveillance footage from nearby warehouses captured a figure familiar to the investigators, a former manager who had once worked closely with Takisha 69 and had been dismissed following a bitter dispute over contracts and finances. The documents recovered from the safe revealed the true motive behind the attack. They contained detailed records of past contracts, hidden agreements, and evidence of financial discrepancies from Takisha's early career. These papers had been kept secret not out of greed, but to protect her from those who might exploit her success. The intruders had not been searching for jewelry or cash. They had been seeking information that could be used to manipulate or discredit her. Every document they grabbed, every envelope they disturbed, told a story of betrayal and the dark side of the music industry, where old connections sometimes turned into dangerous liabilities. Investigators pieced together the timeline of events with careful precision. The intruders' actions inside the mansion, from the moment they disabled the security system to the time they pried open the safe, matched patterns commonly seen in professional thefts motivated by knowledge rather than wealth. The mistakes they made dropping tools, leaving fingerprints, leaving behind torn documents provided the trail that law enforcement needed. Though the ringleader had fled the state before authorities could reach him, the evidence left behind strengthened the case against him, ensuring that escape would not guarantee impunity. For Althea and Takisha, the ordeal left emotional scars that would not fade easily. The house, once a sanctuary, bore the marks of violation, a permanent reminder that danger could strike even in familiar, secure places. Yet the incident also served as a turning point. Takisha reinforced her security measures and became more vigilant, aware that her past connections could return in unexpected ways. The attempted theft and hostage situation exposed the vulnerability that comes with success, but it also demonstrated resilience. Althea survived, the documents remained largely intact, and the perpetrators, despite their audacity, left behind enough evidence to ensure justice could eventually be served. The night of terror would become a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of how carefully calculated greed and betrayal could invade even the most protected spaces, but also of how vigilance and preparedness could prevent a tragedy from becoming irreversible.